Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax. Except you, that person driving. Sit up and keep your eyes on the road. Your ears, though, can still listen as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Well, goofballs, the two giant goofballs, the New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm Rob, on a different night.
You know, it's the same night. It's still Tuesday evening.
Well, hey, listen,
everybody else
don't be inconsiderate.
It's
a different night for everyone else out there in podcast land.
I could see John Anderson now in the comments section saying, "Drew, you're wearing the same shirt as yesterday. It's gonna happen. I know him too well."
It smells a little bit.
It doesn't smell. I just got out of the shower. I had to work. I had to shower. And then I have to pack after this. Mostly packing alcohol and swim trunks.
Yeah. But you're in Georgia right now.
I'm in Georgia as this is going, but I'm not in Georgia right now. When in the future I'll be in Georgia, but as of now I'm in Florida.
For any goofball out there listening next week, you will not be in Florida.
I will not be in Florida. I will be, actually we'll be in Florida next week. Hold on. You're confusing me. Next week I'll be back in Florida. Alrighty. I'm in. Alrighty, guys. So today we're going to go over ranking the NFC East teams for the 2023 season here. The big question has been, have the Giants closed the gap? Because let's be honest, there was a gap, obviously. And I don't mean just the type that's in a mall. I don't mean the type that's in Michael Strahan's mouth. I mean, there is a gap in talent, clearly, between the Eagles and Cowboys versus the Giants. We were 0-5 against them last year, guys. 0-5. Most of our losses were to the Giants was to the Cowboys or the Eagles.
We played the Cowboys pretty well. The first game against the Eagles was just terrible. Our third strings played the Eagles pretty well.
We're losing to Rob. We're losing.
Don't let go, Drew.
Don't let go. I'm here. I've been here the whole time. Are you here?
I'm here.
Hold me.
Never let go.
There's not room for both of us on this door. Push. Alrighty, guys. So we're not going to really go over much of the changes the Giants have made this offseason. That'd be a bit redundant, to say the least. I think you guys pretty much have a grasp on it. If not, go back to the prior episodes. We went over.
We broke it all
position
down
by position, everything for y'all. We went through multiple weeks of going over this stuff here, so I don't want to beat that dead horse at all. So bad enough the horse died. Why don't you feed the horse, Rob? What the hell?
Because it was living in Florida.
No, stop beating it. Feed the horse, damn it. Oh my!
And I said it was living in Florida.
Right. So let's start off with. I think it's fair to start off with the defending NFC East champions and to go ahead and go for them very first. The big things for them, obviously, is a good amount of their defensive starters there. They did gain some players, though, as far as for redshirted freshmen, basically, that didn't really start. And they signed a couple players. They traded for a player. They drafted a whole bunch more players. And they were pretty busy this offseason. They really, really were. I mean, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, was gone on defense very late. There was talks about keeping him. There was, are they going to keep Darius Slay and James Bradbury? They ended up keeping both, spoiler alert. They lost both their starting linebackers. They lost, Jason Hargrave, one of their best defensive players overall, as defensive tackle. It was an up and down offseason for them. They lost even Gardner Minshew, their backup quarterback. They lost, So
the beautiful mustache.
Yeah. So, so in the end, though, the big thing is they lost T.J. Edwards. I think that was a pretty decent one. Isaac Samalu they lost. Charles Gardner-Johnson they lost. Miles Sanders they lost. Again, Hargrave, as we mentioned a minute ago, Andre Dillard, their backup tackle, they lost. Kazir White, they lost. As we said, Gardner Minshew, they lost. Marcus Epps, they lost. Zach Pascal, they lost. They lost a lot of players.
But the one thing that Eagles have done pretty well, which I don't
like, they lost both their defensive and offensive coordinators there. So
that's true. That makes a big difference. But one of the things the Eagles do that done very well for the past quite a few years is they draft replacement.
Yeah. They draft before they even need. That's what they do. And this year they had some holes though, and they drafted. Yeah, and they drafted this year people they did need. So, they go out and get Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the first round. So they beef up the line after losing a couple guys and having some guys that are just, let's be honest, old as time. Tyler Steen out of Alabama, of course, fills a potential hole for them in the offensive line. Sidney Brown fills a hole at safety for them. Kylie Ringo, a steal they got later on. So they did a lot of reloading, and they did some damn good reloading. Let's give credit where credit is due. As much as I despise the Eagles, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I think
I'm just going to see
thank God for you. I had to go. Oh yeah, John will be like Mingo. But no, we're talking about Keely Ringo. We were talking. So, but in the end, I think considering the issues they had, I think they had a very good offseason overall, the Eagles. And I hate to give them the credit, but I'm going to give them the credit. They had a very good offseason. The big question, I think, to me, that I don't think is talked about enough is they lost both their coordinators. We're going to find out how much of their success was Nick Sirianni. We're going to find out how much of that success was him. We're going to find out how much it was the people around him. And we don't know.
Who Sirianni?
So not be here.
Yay, coordinator.
But I think it's safe to say that because they were just so damn good last year. The idea that you're going to go the kind of stretch they went through 2 years in a row is highly unlikely. That's not something I would expect to see. I don't think it's something realistic to expect overall. So the big question is, how much worse are they this year than they were last year? And time's going to tell on that one. So,
and I don't want to admit that much. If they just drop like 5%, like 10%, like they drop 10%, that's a lot of percent when you're talking about the NFL. Like Cowboys probably don't catch them.
Yeah.
Maybe the Giants will 1-1.
Let's get into the Cowboys because I think. Let's get into the Cowboys because I think obviously that's the second guy that the second team we really want to go after here is the Cowboys because let's be honest, we hate Cowboy fans. We hate Cowboy fans more than we actually hate the Cowboys. Is the scary part, I think. How about the boys? It's been 30 years. Shut up, guys. You haven't won crap out of 10,000 days. 10,000 days. Okay. But they also had a pretty damn good, offseason overall. The big acquisitions for them were trades. So they acquired Brandon Cooks from the Texans, who, while he's played for half the league at this point, he's done good for half the league. He's been a consistent 1,000-yard guy. They require Stephon Gilmore, who's like the oldest cornerback in all of football. But again, he still played very good. Can he hit the wall this year? Of course. But you have to assume until he does hit the wall that he probably has another year or two left in him. So, they took care of some of those spots pretty big there. They re-signed Leighton Vander Esch. They go ahead and they did lose Dalton Schultz, but, they do have, obviously, Luke Shoemaker, the draft pick they got from Michigan this year, along with Ferguson, the draft pick out of Wisconsin last year. So they're already ready to go at that position. I think the biggest thing you can say is that they definitely reached for some guys, though, at this draft. They went drafted based on need. I think that to me is pretty obvious, observation to make. They needed a defensive tackle. They took one in the first round. They lost their tight end. They took one in the second round. They lost the linebacker. They took one in the third round. Though I do actually like that guy. And then, of course, be remiss not to mention that they take one of their director of scouting or whatever. They take his son, a guy who looks like he belongs on a PG football team. So, you can make some questions there, and you got to wonder: is Tony Pollard healthy? Can Tony Pollard
and they also
play this year?
That draft grade didn't they get like a E?
Obviously, everything depends on where you go to at that point. But yeah, it wasn't a very good draft grade from everything I saw because they reached based on need.
Yeah,
but like I said, I think the big question is going to be: is Tony Pollard healthy? Yeah.
Can he be the number one? Can he replace Zeke?
Is he ready to go? Is he going to be as good as last year? Can anyone replace Zeke? I mean, the guy that's looking to replace Zeke is Ronald Jones. They signed, the former Tampa Bay Buck, because he'll be their number 2 running back. And if Tony Pollard isn't healthy, or Tony Pollard isn't as fully himself to start the season, you're going to count on a lot of Ronald Jones. And the more you count on Ronald Jones, what that really means is the more you're counting on Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, the NFL leader for interceptions while missing 5 games last year.
Great stat.
And the pressure's on for Dak this year because after this year, he goes up and up and up on salary cap numbers here. This is a make or break year for Dak Prescott. And we all know how he does with pressure. Just look in the playoffs.
Under pressure.
Call it like it.
He will throw the ball to the other team under pressure.
Even not under pressure.
He just gives it away. Here you go.
Yep. He's like the Oprah Winfrey of quarterbacks.
Yeah. You get an interception. You get an interception. You get a pick 6.
Even the Giants got interceptions on them. The Giants couldn't intercept anybody in practice, let alone a game. But they did it. So, you can make the case for the Cowboys being worse this year. And you can also make them being case for being better this year because of the 2 big moves with Gilmore and Cooks. And I think it's another team that you can sit there and say, time will tell if they're better or worse. Whereas the Eagles, I think it's pretty safe to say, are probably a little bit worse. The Cowboys, I think it's safe to say we're kind of on the fence. I don't know if you agree on that, Rob, but I'll say I'm on the fence whether they're better or worse.
I'm on the fence.
A lot of variables.
They had a bad draft, but like you said, the best thing was with this offseason was trading. Like getting, Cooks was the best move. He's not the best guy, but he's a good 2 to CeeDee Lamb, who I don't think is a great number 1, but you have to respect Cooks on the field when he gets 1,000 yards consistently every year.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, either side, they could be good, they could be better, they could be worse, they could be the same. So we're going to find out of that. I'm kind of torn on what I think they're going to do this year. One more team we have left, and I think it's safe to say that this team probably will be worse. And I think it's going to be a clean cut, a good team in comparison to the rest of the division overall. And that's the Washington Commanders, or whatever they want to call themselves this year. I don't know if they changed their name again. They lost their they lost their right to call themselves the Commanders now fully legally.
The Washington.
But if you look at their big changes, their big pickups, the Washington Presidentes. That's what they should do. But the biggest changes they have in the offseason, I mean, they signed they signed Nick Gates from us. They way overpaid for him. They signed, Andrew Wiley. While he has a great first name, in the end, he was like the worst player on the offensive line for the Chiefs. You can make the case said, the only big move they really made was getting Eric Bieniemy to be their offensive coordinator. And let's be honest, Eric Bieniemy wasn't running to go for Washington. There's a lot of people who are not very high on Eric Bieniemy, and I think he made a very wrong move. I think they made a very wrong move. He did, I should say, by going to Washington, where now Sam Howell has been handed the keys to the franchise. Yeah, Sam freaking Howell. Let's look at the rest of the players that came out of the 22 draft and how they did. And do you really think that you want to put your faith in a single one of them except for Kenny Pickett? Kenny Pickett's the one guy you can sit there and say has a chance to be a legit quarterback. You know, Malik looked horrible. Desmond looked horrible. Yeah, good luck. He had one okay game, and you want to throw him the keys to the franchise. That's a huge mistake. The other offensive line also not very good. When you're getting overpaying for guys from the New York Giants to play in your offensive line, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, especially after the last few years.
You know, and you can make the case again that they didn't draft very well either. I mean, Emmanuel Forbes. You know, I don't like going with outliers, and you basically picked a guy at number 16 that is 165 pounds. To me, he was a second-round grade. Quan Martin, they signed him as well. I actually kind of like that pick, but I know a lot of other people thought it was early to get him. I like the player a lot. Ricky Stromberg to play center after you just overpaid for Nick Gates. Now you reach for another center, Ricky Stromberg, unless they want to move Gates to guard. But from everything I heard, they want him to play center. Like I said, just a lot of question marks overall, and it's a real shame because I got to say I'm a huge fan of Ron Rivera. I think Ron Rivera is a hell of a coach, and I think he's going to go somewhere else, probably be fired at the end of the year, and probably end up in a much better scenario.
Most likely.
Yeah. So what it really boils down to is, where do we rank the guys? And I think it's pretty obvious if you look at this division as a whole that the defense is very strong for all four teams. The Giants, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Commanders, all are very good defensively. The deciding factor to me is going to be how good are the offenses. And I look at the offenses, and I go, Washington. I look at Washington and go, that's it.
I thought you did. Ha 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 ha.
So I think they're clearly the worst in the division, just because I really think their offense is going to be horrendous. I'm telling you right now, if they even have an average offense, Eric Bieniemy better get a head coaching job next year. If they even have an average offense. So
they have an average offense. Yeah. Close to a decade.
No, they have great receivers. They don't really have, they have good running backs they depend on, but they don't have laid up running backs. They don't have a good offensive line. They have probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league potentially. They have receivers. That's what they have on offense. That's it.
Yeah. They got McLaurin. McLaurin's a great receiver over there.
Oh yeah, no, Terry McLaurin's awesome. But
and then you got Robson.
Got the potential.
Right, Robson, the guy that was shot.
What was that? Sorry.
Yeah, they just need someone to. I said, what was it? Robson, the guy that shot himself in the.
Brian Robinson.
Or no, he got shot.
He got shot. He didn't place to go. He was attacked.
Yeah, he got shot. I made a mistake. I said Flexible Burrows.
He's not electric. He doesn't have a high ceiling in my mind. The Commanders
played pretty well last year.
The rock to running back because I'm saying the Commanders kept feeding the rock to running backs because they knew they couldn't throw the ball. It was run, pass. Fooled you. They used the pass. They used the run to set up the pass, which is the perfect way to play in the 1980s. So in the end, I think, you got to have them number 4. The big question comes to be, is who do you like or not like next? To me, there's too many questions on the Dallas Cowboys. Does Pollard come back? Can that line be healthy? Because they weren't healthy at all for quite a good amount of the season last year. Do they miss Dalton Schultz? Can Dak Prescott remember what team he plays for? There's a lot of questions on that offense. And I'm going to put them at number 3. And I think a lot of people will probably give me some poop for it, to put it nicely. But I do think
that the Cowboys.
Like, the Cowboys have too many variables. They didn't have that good of an off season. Dak, he's gonna, like you already said before, when we're talking about how the team breaks down, he doesn't do pressure well. This is a pressure year for this team where they can't make a mistake. And what do they do when they can't make a mistake? They make mistakes. The Dallas has been on a slight decline for a few years now, which no one likes to admit because everyone thinks Dallas goes to the Super Bowl every freaking year. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Looking at the New York Giants coaching staff, they've done some moves to build them right back up. And even though Dallas beat us twice, we were still pretty close to their record. And if we get one win over them, that could change the whole momentum of their game, which I don't think it's far-fetched to say we could even beat them twice.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty obvious that in this scenario here, the New York Giants would then be number 2. And don't get me wrong, there's variables with them as well. How many of the offensive weapons are going to be healthy? Is Saquon going to be Saquon again? Does Daniel Jones, take a step forward as some of us do expect and some of us don't expect? There's a lot of question marks there as well. But I think the big difference is the Giants will play sound football. They'll play balanced football. And I think they have a better chance to have a solid offense compared to the Cowboys because there's less question marks. There's more certainties. There's better depth. And that's, it's rare to say the Giants have good depth. The Giants have damn good depth at receiver. You go up to the Cowboys and you go past the first 2. Look, CeeDee Lamb would be the best player as far as wide receiver wise on the Giants. You could make the case that Cooks would be the best receiver on the New York Giants. But past that, they don't have good receivers. The Giants have the depth. The Giants have the top weapons. The Giants have, the younger line, the up-and-coming line.
A quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. Good.
And it's how weird compared to a couple of years ago. A quarterback that doesn't make mistakes, the same quarterback, and somehow he makes the mistakes. So I'm going to put the Giants at number 2.
I think it's going to be a close battle for number 2, but I think Giants can pull it out. Like, they got a tough schedule, so do the Cowboys. And with everything the way they've been playing under pressure, like, they just don't do it. And a lot of times when the Giants get into high-pressure games this past year, they look a lot better than they have in the past 5, even possibly 10 years. So,
yeah,
I think the Giants just with their potential.
This is a potential coming out year for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, like in June, like in Pride, or
no, not in Pride.
No. Oh, okay.
I'm sure he's very prideful, but and that leaves obviously the team at number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. As much as I hate to say it, I still don't think the Giants have closed the gap between the Eagles yet. I will say this, though, and it's going to be I told you so moment coming down the pipeline here, and it's going to take a couple of years for this pipeline. The Eagles are playing for now. And what I mean by that is the Eagles are building up contracts that they're going to have to pay later on down the line. They're not paying that much to Jalen Hurts right now, but he's already signed the contract. You're going to have to pay him. They're going to be paying Darius Slade till he's like 45 years old, the way this whole contract is going. Like, they spread money around. much like the Saints have done for years. Well, guess what? The Saints had to pay the piper last year.
Yeah.
Saints had to pay. They finally caught themselves back up. And eventually it's going to happen for the Eagles as well. They're just hoping they win a Super Bowl or two before that happens. I just don't see it happening. I think they're still not quite there with players that are getting older and are going to be a little bit less. Like, does time catch up to Darius Slay? He's 34 years old? That's pretty old for a corner. Jason Kelsey getting up there in age as well.
Yeah, but they were Kelsey there.
Starting to get up there a little bit up there. Yeah. One of those Kelsey.
When they retired last year, they came off like 2 weeks later. He did the Tom Brady.
One of those fellow podcasters. But you got a lot of players on there that are this close. Fletcher Cox this close to retiring. They still have some guys they haven't re-signed that they had last year, like Ndamukong Suh, who's 48 years old. I mean, there's this guy that you just don't know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, do they have the ammo to fill the holes in free agency, but also the holes from players just getting older in general as a whole? And
not that it was still on anyone.
And I think they have
not
2 years left to realize a second ring for their franchise. And if they don't, they're going to be doing some rebuilding. Unless every single one of their picks pans out, which is so rare to happen, it's not even funny.
I mean, not like we're talking about the age of these players. Like, not that I wish ill on anyone, but injuries. Injuries happen, especially the older. That's different is the Boo and the Eagles, but the person, unless you're Deshaun Watson, I wish we'll call it Shady Jackson there.
Which Shady Jackson? Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson. I don't want to say you want to get hurt, but when you're paying these older players to play for you at a high level, there's more prone opportunity for injury.
Yeah.
So can you backfill 2 years from now when you're paying the piper, paying these guys, and they got to play for you, and 4 of your starters go down there, you're paying all this money to them, you're putting it in a backup who may not be playing to that far. Like, you may be falling on your face.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility there. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that happens and plays out for them. All I know is a Giant fan. I look forward to that day, and I fully expect, like I said, it's going to take a couple of years to happen, but it's going to happen. Like I said, this will be probably their year. Next year, you'll probably start seeing a decline, and then the year after that, I think it's going to be right off a cliff.
Avalanche.
Again, unless every single one of their picks pans out. And if it does, kudos to them. But damn it for us.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that's where we got it. We got Eagles, we got Giants, we got Cowboys, and we got Commanders. And you're going to see potentially, if this all goes down, I think you're going to see a lot of change in the NFC East the following year for 2024, sorry, because that'll mean that, McCarthy will probably go on in Dallas. Ron Rivera will probably go on in Washington. And like I said, you're going to see natural loss and changes over in Philadelphia overall just because of the age of some of the players. Some of them almost retired this year. So,
yeah.
But for this year, it's going to be a loaded division against a very tough, list of opponents here. I'm looking forward to the season, though. I can't wait. I'm ready to go. Let's put some pads on.
Let's go, Moose.
Hope that everybody else comes along with us.
Yeah. We're all going streaking, guys. Let's go.
Through the gymnasium.
Yeah.
All righty, Giant fans. Well, we'll be back on for you guys again Monday. We will be back on live again Monday as well, since I'm still in Georgia right now, watching probably with you guys because that's what I do. Listen, I can't help myself. I don't know why. I watch even though I'll be in Georgia. I won't be able to record like this. That's why we're doing it ahead of time. I won't have all my equipment with me. But I can still watch on my phone or something. Chit-chat a little with y'all. Yeah. So, again, we'll be back in on Monday for a patriotic 3rd of July episode. We'll be back again, of course, then continuing then our list of the best of the Giants. We still have a lot of players to go on defense. Giants are known for their defense. We still got a lot of players to go. Oh, yeah, so much D. All right, Giant fans. Appreciate you guys listening in. Hope you enjoyed the episode here. Again, we'll be back again live for you on Monday. And remember, as always, if you enjoy the show, like the show, sponsor the show, buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. And again, sponsorship memberships available as well. And like I said, guys, we'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe. Stay happy. Stay Giant. And as always, Giant fans.
Stay blue.
Go G-Man! Go G-Man! G-Man! G-Spot.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support. If you made it this long, you must have enjoyed it. So I am sure you have followed us on all the social media platforms. Of course, you have subscribed to the show on your favorite app as well and given us a top rating. Right? Right? Right?